Hi guys, I think I should be audible and probably visible. Just give me a moment. Audible and visible. Just give me a moment. Okay, yeah. Uh, Good evening, everyone. So welcome to third session of RCs at 6 p.m. Today we'll be taking up a relatively simpler passage, I believe, as compared to the last two passages, the last two RCs that we solved on, I think, Tuesday को हमने किया था, एक Monday को किया है ना? So this is relatively simpler, but it is still a good example of certain types of errors which you can observe in the incorrect options, and it can also provide us will serve as a good example of in this RC we'll be able to understand ki, like how you can actually go about reading passages quickly, right, something that we have been discussing in the last 2 days. So usme bhi this will be helpful. Okay, so let's start. So the again as usual we'll start with a passage overview जो हम लोग 15 minutes पे नहीं लगेंगे इसमें, तो I think this will be a fairly quick one, and then we'll move on to the question solutions part where I'll address your queries with respect to all the questions for this RC, and then finally if you have any other residual queries such, so yeah, so we will take that up. Just for your reference, the difficulty level of this particular RC, I have rated this RC to on a scale of 5. On a scale of 5 पे मैंने इसको 2.5 rate किया, as you can see here, right? So it's 2.5. I've rated at a difficulty level of 2.5 on 5, so not very difficult. Frankly, yesterday's RC I had rated it at 3.5, and the day before yesterday was 3/5. ठीक है, चलो मेटा पॉइंट्स का डिस्कशन काफ़ी हो गया. लेट्स स्टार्ट विद योर passage. Number of words for this was 535 words, 5 questions, 535 words का passage था. It shouldn't have taken you more than maximum. It should have taken you a maximum of 3.5 or 4 minutes to read this passage, and वो भी मैं थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा ही बोल रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. The reason is not obviously like I understand it's 500 words, but still the content of the passage was quite easy and quite what do you say? It was not totally taken out of context, right? एकदम आपके संदर्भ के एकदम बाहर था, ऐसा नहीं था. So yeah, चलो without any further ado, let me start with the explanation of the first part. So in the first part, so see, guys, oftentimes authors will use some rhetoric, will use some fancy or what do you say, a fancy way of writing or presenting their ideas. But the ideas that they present, will usually be very simple. The ideas and the points that they ultimately want to put across, or they ultimately want the reader to understand, is oftentimes quite simple. The rhetoric that they use, or let's say the flamboyance that they try to get, is often that which makes the content maybe not as direct as possible. वो mainly उसको emphasis के लिए use करते हैं, right? Because they want to emphasize their point. So for example, आप यहाँ पे देखिए, ये first sentence देखिए यहाँ पे, will a day come when India's poor can access government services as easily as drawing cash from an ATM? So obviously he's trying to make a point. So he's trying to use some rhetoric here. भाई जितने आसानी से आप कैश निकाल लेते उतने आसानी से ऐसा कोई दिन आएगा कि कोई हमारे देश के गरीब लोग, एक गरीब आदमी हमारा गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज को उतनी आसानी से एक्सेस कर पाए. And then he goes on to say that no country in the world has made accessing education or health or policing or dispute resolution as easy as an ATM, right? So all of this is basically to emphasize on the point that he's trying to make. Yeah, he's trying to build a backdrop here. Okay. A lot of content, a lot of words, a lot of sentences go into building the backdrop, go into building the backdrop for creating emphasis for the point that the author might ultimately make. ये मैं आपको इसलिए बता रहा हूँ because in every past, in every paragraph, let's suppose ये आपका एक paragraph है पूरा, which has multiple lines, multiple lines and multiple sentences. many of these sentences will often be dedicated to rhetorical elements. Okay, many of these sentences, let's say sentence 1 हो गया आपका, sentence 5 हो गया, they will often be dedicated to rhetorical elements. Okay, and the content or the core elements will be, well, less in number, right? वो काफी वो थोड़े से ही होते हैं, वो आपके हमेशा बहुत सारे नहीं होते थे, लेकिन in a couple of sentences the author would have all provided his point quite easily. Acha, how does that help us? Well, that helps us in terms of understanding that you can go through the rhetorical part, or the part where he's just trying to create the backdrop a little quickly, fairly quickly. आप उसको जल्दी पढ़ सकते हैं. And whenever you come to the part where he's actually presenting the argument, वहाँ पे आप थोड़ा समय डाल सकते हैं, so that you understand the author's argument properly. Okay, chalo. So then he says, because the nature of these activities requires individuals to use their discretion in a positive way, technology can certainly facilitate. He says that no country in the world has been able to, what do you say, has made accessing these services like education, health, or policing, or dispute resolution as easy as an ATM. And uska karan ye hai ki these are like, these are it's because of the nature of these activities. They are of a certain nature, and because of their nature, technology is not in a position so as to address the issues with the delivery of these services, right? So essentially what he's saying is just this: the nature of many government services, it's the nature of many government services that limits technology to play only a facilitative role in improving their effectiveness, right? So author is just trying to say कि भाई काफी सारी government services आपकी ऐसी हैं, they are so dependent, उनका nature ऐसा है, they are so dependent on the service provider's discretion to act in a positive manner. वो इस पे इतनी dependent है कि टेक्नोलॉजी वहाँ पे ज़्यादा काम नहीं कर सकती. वो उसको अगर उस सर्विस प्रोवाइडर की अगर वहाँ पे नीयत होगी, वो उसको अच्छे से करना चाहेगा, तो ही वो सर्विस अच्छे से डिलीवर होगी. अदरवाइज कितना भी आप टेक्नोलॉजी ले आओ, ये ले आओ, वो ले आओ, इट कैन नॉट प्ले अ मेजर रोल. दैट्स व्हाट ही इज ट्राइंग टू से. ओके, फर्स्ट पार्ट हो गया, आगे चल रहा हूँ मैं. नेक्स्ट part 2, the dangerous illusion. Okay, part 2 में again I will not read the whole this all these two paragraphs line by line. I'll simply tell you what he has done here. The author has given you 3 examples. The author has used 3 specific examples here to demonstrate his point. Okay, the first example that he has used is with respect to, what do you say, the auxiliary nurse midwife ANMs at clinics in Rajasthan, right? That's your example number 1. That's your example number 1. The second example that he has used here is with respect to the public and the medical care, the comparative medical care in public and private sector hospitals in Delhi. वो आपका I think यहाँ पे है. This is your example number 2. Example number 2. And the third example that he has used is I think we might have heard of this way back, is with respect to the West Bengal's teacher who made his students massage his feet instead of teaching them, right? So report on education in West Bengal, वो आपका ये वाला दिया है, in which villagers forced the teacher to attend school. Correct. So this anecdote. This is the third example that he has used here. All 3 examples have been used to demonstrate only 2 points. Okay, have been used to demonstrate only 2 primary points in both of these paragraphs. And the first of these 2 primary points is that the author believes that the core problem is not technology. The core problem is motivation. In each of these 3 cases, what lacked primarily, जिसकी वजह से आपकी ये सर्विस सही से डिलीवर नहीं हो पा रही थी, was the motivation. Okay, and not let's say the lack of technology, etc. Okay, that's the first point that he notes here. That is common to all 3 of the examples. That is common to all 3 of the examples provided here. Okay, उसके बाद second point that he notes here is in part 2, author notes second point that he notes here is that, okay, obviously motivation is the core problem, and that how technology has failed in improving the service delivery in these examples. तो पहला चीज वो बता रहे हैं कि core problem motivation है. दूसरा चीज वो बता रहे हैं कि भाई टेक्नोलॉजी का फेलियर डेमोन्स्ट्रेट किया जा रहा है यहाँ पे via these 3 examples, right? In the first example, the example of the nurses at the clinics in Rajasthan, जहाँ पे you had that attendance system. There was a study that was done on it, and the title of the study, he says it all, right? Band-aids on a corpse. That means that intervention, that technological intervention to track attendance did not really help at all. ठीक है. दूसरा, यहाँ पे स्टडी ऑफ मेडिकल केयर इन दिल्ली फाउंड दैट इवन दो सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स आपके पब्लिक सेक्टर में ज़्यादा स्किल्ड है, still the medical care in public sector is worse off than the medical care in private sector, right? So again, in this case, motivation is turning out to be the key. Finally, he notes in the last West Bengal teachers anecdote here that when the villagers in a certain village, they forced the teacher of the village or teacher of the primary of the school of the village to attend school. Then what ended up happening was that instead of teaching the children, he had the children massage his feet. Right? So again, the problem here is still motivation, right? So he has used these three examples to demonstrate the same point: that motivation is the core problem, and how technology has failed, at least in one of these examples cases. ठीक है, तो ये चीज़ आपको यहाँ पे बताई गई है. Let's move on to the next paragraph. Sorry, next part. The next part comprises the final two paragraphs of the passage. Now, up until this part, up until before part 3, what the author did was he basically elaborated what is the problem, like how technology is not the answer to the problem of providing proper government, of delivering these government services properly, one, and how the core problem is motivation. Okay, ये दो चीजें नोट की. ये पहली चीज नोट की कि टेक्नोलॉजी सब कुछ सॉल्व नहीं कर देगा so far as service provision is concerned for these government services. And the second item that was noted here is that because the core problem is not related to technology. The second point is that the core problem itself is motivation. Yeah, right? Niyat mein problem. No, okay. Take it. Now in the third part, the author is simply dedicated to providing to putting across what he believes could be the solution to this whole issue. कि क्या करके इसको solve किया जा सकता है इस मुद्दे को. He says that the answer to providing basic services is to create systems that provide both autonomy and accountability. The answer to successfully providing basic services is to create systems that and his answer is very simple, that what we need to do here in these cases is to create systems that provide autonomy at the same time that ask for accountability on part of the सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स. ओके, सो कि यार जो भी आपके सर्विस प्रोवाइडर हैं, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो आपको उनको ऑटोनॉमी देनी. यू डोंट हैव टू लाइक ट्राई टू सर्वेल देम और अंडरटेक सर्वेलेंस ऑफ देम. आप सर्वेलेंस करके वो कंट्रोल नहीं हो जाएगा. सो अलाउ देम, लाइक फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल गेट टीचर्स हु एक्चुअली वांट टू टीच, एज ही सेज, राइट? द की इज टू हायर टीचर्स हु वांट टू टीच and then let them teach. That means provide autonomy, expressing their professionalism and vocation as a teacher through autonomy in the classroom, and then this autonomy has to be matched with accountability for results, and then also bring in accountability, right? Also like check whether they are able to deliver the results or not, and not just, and obviously the accountability should not be measured in this particular context by test scores, but by trying to get some broad measures of the quality of the education that they are providing. Okay, so एक तो ये बताया है. So his answer to this solution is to create systems that allow for autonomy by and hire people who are actually motivated, and at the same time, asking for accountability. His solution, the solution that the author provides, he has corroborated or substantiated his solution by providing a recent study, by citing a recent study. राइट, यहाँ पे एक स्टडी को साइड किया है यहाँ पे कि भाई एक स्टडी कंडक्ट किया गया था उत्तर प्रदेश में, जहाँ पे when all civil service teachers could be replaced with, when they were replaced with contract teachers, the state could save billions of dollars in year in revenue, and also double student learning, right? So एक स्टडी था जहाँ पे they brought in the autonomy, they brought in the accountability, and they saw positive results. बस वो चीज़ आपको यहाँ पे बताई गई है clearly. ठीक है, so I hope that's clear to everyone. All right, let's move on to the next one. So finally, see the flow of the passages. He first notes how the nature of certain government services limits technology to play only a facilitative role. बाकी कुछ नहीं कर सकता technology. Hi Shivam. And then in the second part, the author notes that The core problem is motivation, and he uses three examples to demonstrate the same, right? कि हाँ कि भाई टेक्नोलॉजी से कुछ नहीं होगा, आपको एक्चुअली मोटिवेशन कोर इशू है. And he uses the examples of the nurses in the clinics of Rajasthan. He uses the examples of the differential medical care observed in public sector and private sector hospitals, and he uses the example of the West Bengal teacher, right? ये तीन एग्जाम्पल को यूज करके ये बताया ऑथर ने. Finally, he provides his own solution to the problem. He says that you need to bring in systems that uh, allow that, first of all, hire motivated people to do the jobs and allow for enough autonomy along with that, and also ask for accountability on part of the service providers, right? And he also corroborates the same solution with a study. That's it. अब इसको अगर मुझे सेंट्रल आइडिया बताना हो तो सिंपल सा है. Ensuring autonomy and accountability of service providers can help improve the delivery of implementation intensive services. Technology can only play a facilitative role. That's it. As simple as that. Okay. शिवम पैसेज सॉल्व कर पाए थे आज आप? We have started releasing the passages by 8 p.m. Now जो आप like for example tomorrow's passages आप आज शाम को 8 बजे से आप access कर पाएंगे. So I hope you were able to go through the passage. I think this was a very वैसे भी थोड़ा सा आसान, बाकी passages के हिसाब से आसान passage था. Let's start with the questions. Questions से शुरू करते हैं. Question number 1. According to the author, service delivery in Indian education can be improved in all of the following ways except through. Okay. See, this is the inversion case. Inversion case का मतलब क्या है कि यहाँ पे आपको correct option mark नहीं करना है, आपको incorrect option mark, like incorrect as per the passage. That means three of these would be options which would represent ways in which service delivery could be improved. मतलब तीन आपके true होंगे. Okay, usually क्या होता है कि आपको तीन false होते हैं, एक आपका true होता है, वो आपको select करना होता है. In this case, you have three true options and one of them will be a false. This is a triple DF scenario, right? So you have to be careful about this word except. Okay, so let's look at the options. The first one says access to information on the quality of teaching. Yes, this has been mentioned. ये दिया हुआ है आपको, कहाँ दिया हुआ है? Well, it's given right here. The first step to being part of the solution is to create performance information accessible to those outside of the government, right? So we have a very clear POR for this, and hence this is true as per the passage, and thus eliminated with a capital E. Strong elimination से आपका ये eliminate हो जाएगा. Elimination of government involvement. Okay, now the author does talk about bringing in some autonomy. Author ने ये बात जरूर की है कि autonomy लाना है, let the teachers teach the way they want to teach, and like first of all have motivated teachers who are interested to teach, and then let them teach the way they want to teach. So there is an argument that the author has made for autonomy, but he has not gone as so far as to say that government का पूरा involvement ही निकाल दिया जाए, right? So elimination of government's involvement is going too far. There's a very clear case of an error of distortion. Okay, and hence you will select this option because you're looking for the false option, right? So ये आपका false हो गया, and this will be selected with the capital S in fact. That is strong selection. Recruitment of motivated teachers, yes, that's something that the author has in fact noted as the case. ये आपको I think second last paragraph में दिया हुआ है. The key is to hire teachers who want to teach, right? So motivated teachers. ये भी आपका clear हो गया. So eliminated with the capital E. Finally, this is an option that some students might have fallen for: use of technology. Now, देखिए यार, author has made a nuanced point when it comes to the role of technology with respect to education. Okay, and the point is this: he doesn't believe that the author does say that कि okay, technology can only play a limited role. Technology बहुत कुछ यहाँ नहीं कर सकता. But at the same time, the author also doesn't say that the use of that technology is totally useless, right? In fact, he says that he notes here in the first paragraph that technology can certainly facilitate. That means technology can be helpful. It's just that it will not address the core issue. Okay, so according to the author, like if it can at least facilitate, that means it can in fact improve Indian education, right? भले ही थोड़ा ही सही, but थोड़ा तो improve हो सकता है ना. So you cannot enhance. You will consider this to be true. Maybe it cannot address the core issue, but it can facilitate. So आप इसको false mark नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है? So this will be true and eliminated with a, maybe if not a capital E, at least with a small e. Okay, and your correct answer will be option 2 here. I hope that's clear, everyone. आगे चलते हैं. In question 2, in the context of the passage, we can infer the title Band-Aids on Corpse in paragraph 2 suggests what? I think this was pretty simple. ये आपको यहाँ पे दिया हुआ the point of reference is somewhere here, Band-Aid on Corpse. The study was with respect to this EMIS, what do you say, electronic management information system जो लगाया गया था आपका ANMs में, clinics में राजस्थान में ANMs का attendance बढ़ाने के लिए, right? And it turned out that the name of the study says it all, Band-Aids on Corpse. So it's clear कि भाई जो चीज, like the Band-Aids is the solution, right? And the body that is lying there or the person who's there is the problem. So Band-Aid is not really going to help address this problem that we have, right? Band-Aid is not enough of a solution. Band-Aid on Corpse का मतलब क्या हुआ कि आप जो solution यहाँ पे ला रहे हैं वो काफी नहीं है, वो यहाँ पे कुछ भी काम नहीं करेगा, जरा भी कारीगर नहीं है यहाँ पे, ठीक है? So and hence so that gives you an idea of what you might understand from this, right? What you can infer from this title. Let's see. Let's look at the options. The nurses attended the clinics, but the clinics were ill-equipped. Nurses ने clinics attend किए, but clinics were ill-equipped. Here, the author notes the main problem here with the provision of these services to be motivation and not the lack of equipment. So Band-Aid, or even that example by the author has been provided to demonstrate how technology can only go so far when the actual problem is motivation. Correct? तो फिर यहाँ पे the nurses attended the clinics but the clinics were ill-equipped. ये आपका it won't like this relates to equipment, right? And equipment का author ने कहीं पे discussion नहीं किया, तो ये आपका eliminate हो जाएगा with a capital E. Next, the clinics were better funded but performance monitoring did not result in any improvement. First of all, we don't know if the clinics were better funded. ये funded का हमारे पास information ही नहीं है. The author only says that these electronic monitoring information systems were installed. That doesn't necessarily mean कि funding भी अच्छा हो गया हो. Right? You can't infer from that. And moreover, it doesn't relate with the Band-Aid on Corpse idea, or let's say the idea that the author is trying to put across that the main problem is motivation, which is not being addressed. Technology will not address the motivation problem, right? That's what he means. So performance monitoring did not result in any improvement. ये part सही है, इसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, but a better funded part is not at all relevant here, so eliminated the capital E. The nurses who attended the clinics were too poorly trained to provide appropriate medical care. The nurses who attended the clinics were too poorly trained. The author doesn't see, motivation is something else and training is something else. They are not exactly the same thing, correct? So, and the author says nothing about training. The author says something, clearly says notes motivation as the problem. So again, training, this is also this is a very clever distortion of the issue at hand, put across by the author. Okay, EOD होगा आपका ये. The electronic monitoring system was a superficial solution to a serious problem. Yes, that's exactly what it means. This electronic monitoring system is the Band-Aid, and the serious problem is the cause, right? So electronic monitoring system आपका Band-Aid है और वो आपका cause. So I hope that's clear. So your correct answer here will thus be option D with a capital S. आगे चल रहे हैं हम लोग. Question 3, the author questions the use of monitoring systems in services that involve face-to-face interaction between service providers and clients, because such systems do what? The author questions, why does the author question the use of monitoring systems in services that involve face-to-face interaction between service providers and clients? क्यों question कर रहा author इस चीज को, right? That's what your question is. Let's look at the options. Because such systems do not improve services that need committed service providers. Yes, like one might question कि यहाँ पे motivation वाला part कहाँ आ रहा है when author has clearly noted that. See, actually, why does the author question the use of monitoring systems in services? because he believes that using monitoring systems and services is not going to help address the problem of motivation, which is the core problem at hand. So correct, that's his reason कि यार monitoring system use करके आपका motivation का issue नहीं address हो जाने वाला. That's his concern. And so we are looking for an option that is on those lines. ठीक है, option one says because they do not improve services, ये तो part सही है, that need committed service providers, right? So now this word committed relates with the idea of motivation, right? Won't you agree? Correct. So that way it matches the idea that we have to be an answer to be an answer for this particular question, right? तो ये आपका match होता है यहाँ. So we'll mark this as a small s here. Are ineffective because they are managed by the government. Are ineffective because they are managed by the government. The author questions the use of monitoring systems and services that involve face-to-face interaction between. Because okay, the author doesn't say that they are. The author believes that they are ineffective. That's true, but nowhere does he say that they are ineffective because they are managed by the government. ये नहीं बोला गया. अब अगर आप मान लीजिए अगर सेकंड वाला जो एग्जांपल है जहाँ पे पब्लिक द मेडिकल केयर इन पब्लिक सेक्टर हॉस्पिटल्स इज वर्स ऑफ देन द मेडिकल केयर इन द प्राइवेट सेक्टर हॉस्पिटल्स. अब उसमें से अगर आप एक स्टूडेंट खुद से अगर अज्यूम कर ले रहा है, उसमें से इन्फर कर ले रहा है कि ओके मे बी शायद गवर्नमेंट से मैनेज हो रहा है, then it's basically an assumption error on part of the student. The author doesn't say that the difference is because a certain set of institutions is managed by the government, or and a certain set of institutions is not managed by the government, right? That's not the point he's trying to make. His point is that we don't have solutions that address the motivation problem. ठीक है, तो ये आपका this will be an error of distortion again. Eliminated with a capital E. Improve the skills but do not increase the motivation of service providers. Now, do not increase the motivation of service providers is perfect. Is as perfect as it could be. Like this is exactly ऐसी दिया हुआ. But nowhere in the passage does the author say that the use of monitoring devices improves the skills. So ये तो definitely objectionable. This will be your point of objection here, by the way. And hence you'll eliminate this option as well with a capital B. Okay, next. Are not as effective in the public sector as they are in the private sector. No, again, shade between यार जहाँ पे motivation है वहाँ पे होता है, जहाँ motivation नहीं है वहाँ पे नहीं होता. Okay, so that's again an error of distortion and eliminated with the capital E. Okay, your correct answer here will thus be option 1. Question 4. The main purpose of the passage is to do what? Passage का main purpose क्या है आपका यहाँ? To argue that some types of services can be improved by providing independence and requiring accountability. Yes, exactly the case. Some types of services means the implementation intensive services can be improved by providing independence, that is autonomy. Independence stands for autonomy, right? The author talks about that. And accountability and trying to requiring accountability and asking for accountability. So he talks about that as well. So this is the smallest slash capitalist scenario. Analyze the shortcomings of government appointed nurses and their management through technology. Analyze the shortcomings of government appointed nurses and their management through technology. Okay, the author यहाँ पे first of all he didn't even mention that the ये government appointed nurses थे वो भी नहीं दिया हुआ है. And moreover, okay, shortcomings of management through technology हो सकता है, but then again, is that the main purpose? That example has been used to demonstrate that motivation is the core issue, and that demonstrating that motivation is the core issue, that is the purpose. ये तो बस example दिया हुआ था. This is not the main purpose. The main purpose does not relate with the shortcomings of what do you say, the government appointed nurses, right? वो तो नहीं, वो definitely नहीं है. This is a clear distortion and eliminated with the capital E. Critique the government's involvement in educational activities and other implementation intensive services. Again, the author's point is not that the government should not be involved. ऑथर का पॉइंट ये नहीं कि गवर्नमेंट को इन्वॉल्व नहीं होना चाहिए. ऑथर का पॉइंट ये है कि आपको मोटिवेशन का प्रॉब्लम एड्रेस करना है. So again, this is an error of distortion slash presumption, eliminated with the capital E. Find a solution to the problem of poor service delivery in education by examining different strategies. Find a solution to the problem of poor service delivery in education. Now, it's not just restricted, the discussion in the passage is not just restricted to education. The author talks about the A&M's wala case, then he talks about the medical care case. He's talking about a whole gamut of a whole set of implementation intensive services. It is not just as you would say about education, service delivery in education. It's not just restricted to that. Okay, so ये आपका eliminate हो जाएगा with a capital E with an error of distortion again. The correct answer will be option 1. Which of the following, if true, would undermine the passage's main argument? Passage का main argument कहाँ से undermine हो जाएगा? चलो. What is the passage's main argument? We just saw that. अभी हमने देखा पिछले question में that argue that some types of services can be improved by providing autonomy and requiring accountability, right? Okay. Now, in light of this main argument, let's look at which option can potentially undermine the same. If it were proven that increase in autonomy of service providers leads to an exponential increase in their work ethic and sense of responsibility. If it were proven that increase in autonomy of service providers leads to an exponential increase in their work ethic and sense of responsibility, then this will in fact support the author's argument, right? Because author बोल रहा है कि यार autonomy बढ़ाओ तो आपको अच्छा रहेगा, और यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है कि अगर आप autonomy बढ़ाते हो तो yes, in fact काफी अच्छा रहेगा, right? Actually there will be an exponential increase, right? In the work ethic of these people and the sense of responsibility. So yes, that this will actually support. ये undermine तो नहीं करेगा, हमें undermine खोजना है, right? So you will eliminate this with the capital E. If it were proven that service providers in the private sector have better skills than those in the public sector. If it were proven that service providers in the private sector have better skills, the author's point has nothing to do with the difference between service sectors and private sectors. के बीच में के difference से कोई relation नहीं है author का point का. Like this will not like you cannot undermine or support an argument that the author has not made. Like, it's like saying this. For example, if I make this argument that the pen that I see here is black in color. Okay, the pen that I see here is black in color. And let's say आप अगर बोलते हो कि नहीं, this pen is, let's say you agree that yes, so this pen is black in color. So you are supporting the argument. If you say no, so this pen is red in color, then you are undermining my argument. But if you say something like you were watching your let's say you say something like that apples are good for health. Correct? मैंने argument रखा कि the pen is black in color and you say that apples are good for health. Does your argument support or undermine my argument? Neither. It does neither, because it is irrelevant, right? तो अगर आपको author के argument को support या undermine करना है, first of all, the first condition is that it has to be relevant, which is not the case here. So you see that, correct? So empowerment of service providers leads to increased complacency and rigged performance results. Sorry, हम लोग second option दे. So that's why this will be irrelevant and eliminated with a capital E. Option 2 की बात कर रहा हूँ. Option 3, empowerment of service providers leads to increased complacency and rigged performance results. So this says कि okay, अगर आप service providers को empower करेंगे, then actually it will lead to problem. कि complacency they will become more complacent, they'll start rigging performance results. Like they will वो काम नहीं करेंगे, right? और भी complacent हो जाएंगे and बाद में cheat करने लग जाएंगे. Now this will undermine the author's argument. Why? Because if empowering these service providers leads to negative results, when in fact the author said that like providing them autonomy should lead to positive results, right? अब उसकी जगह अगर वो negative results पे जा रहा है तो then this will definitely undermine the author's argument, correct? हाँ, but having said that, we do also have a reservation with respect to this option. What is the reservation? The reservation that we have with respect to this option is that it says it talks about empowerment of service providers. Now, as much as I agree that the author has talked about autonomy with respect to service providers, की autonomy की बात की है author ने, and he talks about autonomy, providing autonomy to service providers. But the author hasn't directly cited the act of providing autonomy to service providers as that of empowering them, right? The idea it doesn't seem like he's trying to empower them. It seems correct. At least they're not directly stated. Yeah, maybe you can infer it. Maybe you can like by some stretch of imagination, आप बोल सकते हो कि ठीक है, you're providing autonomy, so maybe it's kind of you're empowering them. You can probably say that, but the author hasn't said that explicitly, and that's the concern that I have with this option, and that's the reason why I will not mark this as even just the smallest. I will mark this as the smallest slash one, right? So not eliminated, but if we don't get a better option, then we'll go for this. Otherwise, we'll go for a better option. अगर मिलता है तो. Last option, it says if absolute instead of moderate technological surveillance is exercised over the performance of service providers, तो क्या? Like what? If what? Like first of all, this sentence seems to be on an idea level incomplete. कि if some like if absolute अगर आप moderate technological surveillance की जगह आप absolute कर लीजिए, बस that's it. तो अगर के बाद बताना होता है ना कि अगर ऐसा है तो क्या. So that's the first issue. Second, let's suppose you allow it the support of कि हाँ तो हम लोग खुद से समझ गए कि okay, if you instead of provide undertaking moderate technological surveillance, you go for absolute technological surveillance. In such cases, in these cases, इन दीज केस एंड ऐसा अगर करेंगे तो बाद में शायद प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाए, इसके बाद शायद सर्विस प्रोविजन सही हो जाए. वो हमने खुद अज्यूम कर लिया यहाँ पे. अगर हमने वैसा इवन इफ लेट्स से द ऑप्शन सेज दैट it still does not like address or either support or undermine the author's argument, because the author says nothing about technological, what do you say, absolute technological surveillance. ठीक है. So and then more importantly, like जो पहला point हमने इसमें note किया, this is in fact an incomplete idea. It simply says if this pen were not black in color. That's not a complete idea. आगे भी आपको बताना है then what, right? So it says if absolute instead of moderate technological surveillance is exercised over the performance of service providers. It's an incomplete idea, and anyways in no ways undermines the passage's main argument, or in fact is even related to the passage's main argument. So eliminated with the capital E. Your correct answer here will thus be option C. Okay. आगे चलता हूँ. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. So that's about it, guys, for today's passage. And now, if you may have any queries or questions related to this RC, or maybe not related to the RC, or अगर ऐसा कुछ है तो we still have time remaining. You can ask if you have any queries or questions. I'll address them. So if not, then we are done for this session, and I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. again. ठीक है. All right, I guess there are no questions. That's it, guys. Then I'll see you tomorrow, and have a good one. Will be आज आपको अगर if you want to like to solve the next RC, the link to the course is available. The link to the course is available in the description itself. ठीक है, तो आप वहाँ पे solve कर सकते हैं. That's about it from my side. Thank you. Have a good day.